What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Joe Bressler and I'm a filmmaker based in Brooklyn, New York. This is a video about the Sony Burano, which is a camera that I just bought. I bought the camera for a few reasons, mainly because it's a super tough, very versatile, high quality cinema camera that's in the Sony ecosystem, which is super popular in my market at the moment. I like that it has a wide variety of RAW and XAVC recording options, and that it has both a PL and an E-mount. A couple weeks ago, we took the opportunity to test drive the Burano with a set of Lomo super speeds out in the field to see how this incredible camera performs with minimal support in a run and gun filming situation. We also did some tests in a controlled setting to see how different the image quality from the Venice 1 is. The Venice 1 is now similarly priced on the used market. We also threw in an Alexa Mini LF. I want to give a big shout out to NYC Camera Co for letting us not only use their Lomo super speeds, their Venice 1, their Alexa Mini LF, and for providing us with a home base for our shoot. I really appreciate it, guys. The Sony Burano is a full-frame 8.6K cinema camera from Sony that sits between the FX line of cameras and the Venice line of cameras. I personally love how you can shoot 8.6K RAW for commercial production that requires a robust image, or you could shoot 4K XAVC-I for a documentary project that requires thick but easily editable files and something familiar. I bought the camera from B&H, and when I bought the camera, they were offering 0% financing for 24 months with 3 months of deferred payments. This plan really made a lot of sense for my business, as I've been renting my FX3 as a B cam on a lot of shoots recently, and it just made sense to become the vendor for both A and B cams. The market rate for a Burano rental is $1,200, so if you can get the camera on one shoot a month, it will basically pay for itself over the course of the lease perfectly, and I'm already 3 months ahead. I also feel like the Burano is so good that it may be usable in place of the Alexa Mini LF or other higher budget cinema cameras on many of my productions, making this camera a really good value for me because it's a one-stop shop for most of my needs. So as I said previously, we're comparing these two cameras because on the used market, the Venice comes in at a similar price point, which is something that I've seen highlighted in other videos online. But is it a better value for your money? The Venice definitely has the name recognition with a long list of feature film, television, and commercial credits to its name. It also shoots open gate, and it gives us RAW flavors up to XOCN XT instead of LT. That said, the Venice also requires the use of a giant external recorder to film RAW, which makes it much heavier than the Burano, and it maxes out at 6K rather than 8.6K. The Venice also lacks features like IBIS and autofocus, which makes the Burano extremely flexible for owner-operators. And also, by virtue of the fact that the camera is used, I'd expect that most Venices would have a slightly shorter lifespan than most Buranos. The Venice also requires a separate class of accessories due to its weight. It needs beefier camera support, media, and the card reader is the size of 4 FX3s at least and needs to be plugged into the wall. So if you wanted to use the Venice 1 and shoot, say, ProRes, it could be a comparable size package, albeit a little bit heavier. So is the Venice 1 a better value in my opinion? Well, I think that needing to use an external RAW recorder and more expensive media makes that a no for me, not to mention the size and weight differences. Now, before we get on to looking at more footage, let's take a break and give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Framset. I think as a filmmaker, especially as a director, clear communication of references and visual inspiration is super important. I think if you aren't showing what you want to make in pre-production, people are going to go into a job or a shoot unsure of what your vision is. So when you're making treatments, you really want to get your point across visually. I've actually worked as an agency producer before, and I've seen how agencies blaze through looking at treatments, or don't look at them at all sometimes. So it's really important, if you're in a position where you're competing against multiple directors, to at least allow them on a first pass to see really, really strong images. Another way that I use Framset is when I'm working with a colorist, I will pull reference frames from Framset to give them an impression of where I want the grade to go. We did this on the Cats commercial, so you can dial in different parameters on Framset. Framset's special because the library of images that they have available is so vast. The search tools are incredible, and they just make finding that sort of indefinable quality in an image so much easier. So now for a quick side-by-side test of the 3 cameras. As you can see, the Burano and Venice 1 are pretty similar, especially when you grade them to match. I certainly wouldn't be worried about a good colorist handling footage from either of these cameras, and I think they hold up super well next to the Mini LF, which is good to see. And with the Sonys, you get the bonus of added resolution. Looking at an over-under test between the Mini LF and the Burano, it does look like the Alexa has the edge in both overexposure and underexposure, but it's pretty close. The biggest differentiator between all three of these cameras is that the Burano can actually be used with minimal crew and camera support and crew support. And that's what makes it special. I think there's some people that are kind of confused about who the Sony Burano is for. I think the camera is for people who want Venice 2 level image quality, raw workflow, but also the quality of life features like autofocus, the option to use IBIS, features that aren't typically found on a camera of this caliber. The quality of autofocus on Sony cameras is well documented, so I wanted to give IBIS a try with the Lomo super speeds outside on a freezing cold day to see how it performs with zero camera support. My first impression of the IBIS on the Burano while actually filming was a mix of healthy skepticism that turned into amazement. The most impressive moment of the afternoon was definitely when we threw the 100mm lens on to shoot Belle walking across this bridge from across a 6-lane street with zero camera support. And the footage looks perfectly usable, and if you showed me this footage, I would have definitely thought that the operator had at least an easy rig on when capturing it. Now, I would never work like this, to be fair. I always use an easy rig because sustaining the weight of a camera over a working day like the Burano would be challenging and be just frankly bad for your posture and health. Unless you were working on the shoulder, which is not my preferred way to work, I like to have the camera out in front of my body for handheld work. So is there any point to IBIS if it's not practical to handhold the camera for long periods of time? I think there is. I think it's very usable for moments when you just want to grab a quick shot but you don't want to suit up the entire easy rig, and I think it would be tremendously usable for car ride-alongs and for handheld car-to-car shooting. Overall, I didn't get tired using the Burano like this, although I could see it being pretty taxing to use the camera in the way that I did for longer than the hour or so we spent shooting outside. When shooting outside with the Burano, I use the internal NDs on the camera, and I've watched and read a lot of stuff online where there's a lot of IR pollution from using these internal filters, but personally, I thought the footage looked great. I also separately tested the camera and compared the footage with external NDs and internal NDs outside, both hard stop and the variable. And I see a difference, but I'm not sure if the difference is from IR pollution. Leave a comment down below if you're seeing it in my footage or if you know what specific conditions need to be present for this to be an issue. It's my understanding it mostly happens when you're filming in super bright conditions and pushing the limits of the internal NDs. I feel like the Burano has an interesting reputation in the industry right now. A lot of people wonder why you wouldn't just buy or use a Venice 1 in the same price range, or even take advantage of an FX6 for much less. And I think people are missing the point of the Burano in that it gives you Venice level image quality in a portable and flexible package. And this fact makes it super attractive to owner-operators like me. With just a backpack and a 5-in-1 reflector and the Burano, I was able to get these shots super easily because of the IBIS and the build quality of the camera that allows for minimal accessories. From an image quality standpoint, I think the variety of different recording modes you can use on this camera make it extremely flexible, and like the rest of the cameras I put the Burano up against, it creates a stunning image. Having autofocus and IBIS in the Burano absolutely matters a lot to a lot of people. These features being built into this camera make it usable for an extremely wide array of use cases and kind of makes the camera an amazing value if you think about it. My opinion about cameras in general is that at this point, they're all amazing and you should just choose the one that works the best for you in the way that you like to work. The Burano offers the flexibility to work in a myriad of different ways, and to me, that makes it an extremely successful tool.